Well, you watch the other offense when you're watching the other defense. So you know what I mean. So like when you're watching all 12 of our now the playoff game and the championship game, all 14 of their games, you're not only watching Texas on defense, but you're watching the teams that played against them. So you saw Georgia twice, you saw Arizona State last week, and then every other game that they played this year. So you're looking at both. You're looking at plays that maybe that is there a certain group of plays that really affected their defense, and try to put together as you're trying to put together your plan. So.
How much of a temptation is there to do too much of what other teams do well against someone versus what you do well?
Yeah, I think that's the dilemma for all coaches. Like, hey, that's a really good play, but how does it fit into what we do? How does it fit into the skill sets of our players? We're trying to play to our strengths. And so you may say, hey, this is a good scheme, but it takes a certain type of position to run it, and it may not be what we're in. It also may be something, we don't do at all. So then time on task, how many times would you have to run that play versus the varied looks that they give you, and is it worth investing that time in that, or is it better to invest in time in some other things? So that's always part of your how much is too much, how much is too little. You're always kind of going into these games and saying, are we prepared for each situation? Do we have enough plays in those situations? Then do we have the requisite amount of time to practice them so you feel confident that when you call them in a game that our players can execute them. So.
Coach, what do you know about the Texas defense coordinator?
I know Pete. Faced him back when I was on the West Coast, and Pete was on the West Coast at Washington also. He was there with Chris Peterson at the time. Really sound, very, very well-coached team. Their co-defensive coordinator, Johnny Nansen, was on my staff when I was at UCLA, so I worked with Johnny before. So really well-coached. They don't give up anything cheap. I think they're the number one red zone defense in the country, and that's for a reason. So and they played, a big-time SEC schedule. So really, really well-coached team and a really good scheme.
Jim, when was the last time you were calling plays in a game and maybe your patience was tested simply because, as you just mentioned, the defense was adamant on not giving up anything cheap and making you work for every little thing?
Yeah, I think that happens in every game. So I don't think there's one in particular. I think every week offensively you want to try to score every drive you have, but there are sometimes that you go 3 and out and you're frustrated because you didn't execute on first down, so now you had a second and long, and you didn't get half the distance on second down, so now you got a long third and long, and giving them an opportunity to get into the nickel or dime packages. And usually when you're trying to stay ahead of the sticks, so you can go from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 6 to 3rd and 3, and then 3rd and 3 is a lot easier than 3rd and 13. So, but that happens in every game itself. There's not one game where it was just every play you called worked. It never happens that way.
We talked earlier, Coach Flood, about coming up in small ball coaching, and he mentioned coaching against you at New Hampshire. And I think you and I have talked about this before, but do you think that coming up that way and coaching at that level is, what have you picked up from that moving forward to where you are now?
I think everybody has varied paths to how they get there. It's just, I think sometimes when you are at a lower level, you have to have more responsibilities. So, not only are you the running back coach, but you may also be the recruiting coordinator and in charge of filming practice. So, you pick up a lot of different things and a lot of different skill sets that maybe you wouldn't get if you were at a bigger school where you were just the GA for the O-line and that's all you ever did. You didn't get exposed to. I think you get exposed to a lot more things, when you have to coach at the lower levels, just because there aren't as many coaches. So you have to wear a lot of different hats. So I think that helps you in the long run in terms of your development. But there's pluses to it.
Where was Carnell? Obviously, he hasn't had necessarily the touches the last 2 games, given the way Jeremiah and Mecca played. But on film, where is his value shown up the most?
I've always felt like we have 3 number 1 receivers, and that's the beautiful part of it is that if you're going to try to take away JJ and Mech, then that means that there's more opportunities for Carnell in those situations. So he's been outstanding. I think the game we played against Northwestern was a heck of a game by him. So I think it's on a weekly basis. It just depends on how the defense is going to deploy their personnel and what they're trying to take away and what they're trying to give us. But if we have the weapons that we have out wide, again, we feel like we got 3 number 1 receivers now.
Is Jeremiah Smith the best receiver you coach so far?
Jeremiah is a once in a lifetime talent, so I'm not into comparisons of who's this, who's that. He's a special player that we're really fortunate to have him.
Talk to you throughout the season about Will and running. Haven't seen a ton of it, maybe a little bit more in the last game. How prepared do you feel like he is to do that in the round?
Yeah, he's extremely prepared. I mean, Will's a tremendous athlete. So, what we do is based upon what the defense gives us. And do you need to have him run? Are you into that? You look at winning the Penn State game. His legs were critical in that game, in the run game, down the stretch. So I think it just depends on how people are going to play you. But we have all the confidence in the world. If Will has to take it underneath his arm, he's going to do a good job with it. Yep.
Coach, are you having fun this season?
What's that?
Are you having fun?
Yeah, winning is fun. So yeah, and I think the great part about it is this team, this group of players is special. And the fact that you get to be around them every day. So I get to be around the quarterbacks every day and be in a meeting room with Will and Devin and Lincoln and Julian and now we've added Tavian. So it's been awesome. It's a great coaching staff. It's an unbelievable group of players, and we hope we get to keep it together one more week. So to do that, we need to win this game against Texas. So.
As a coach, how do you kind of work to keep that focus on this game? I know it's been the mindset every single game you guys have had, but you are 1 win away from the end goal, right? Or playing for the end goal. How do you keep that focus as a coach with your guys?
I think it's simple. You just turn the tape on who you're playing. So I don't think you can discount anybody when you get to, when 12 teams made it, all 12 teams are legitimate contenders. And, you turned on the tape and you watched Tennessee and you were like, wow, that defensive line for Tennessee was impressive. So, that had our sole focus and attention that week and getting ready for them. And then you fast forward, then now you got to go to the Rose Bowl and play against the number 1 team in the country, who we had already played during the year and knew very much, knew a lot about them. So, you get an opportunity to beat them, and now you get to go play Texas. And Texas played the SEC championship game. I've known Sark for a long time. I know how well coached their team is. So that part of it is it. The challenge is just the next game. We're not thinking about the end goal. We're not a results-oriented group. We're a process-oriented group. So our whole sole focus and attention is on preparing for Texas. We gotta get in, gotta get settled here tonight, and then we gotta have a really good Friday practice, which is tomorrow for us. It's a Friday, even though it's a Thursday, but it's a Friday type practice for us, and preparing for Texas, and then see if we get the opportunity to play one more time. But that's all we really talk about is just Texas, because if you don't take care of business on Friday night in the Cotton Bowl, then there's not going to be any more length in our season.
Chip, how does Texas's defensive speed compare to some of what you guys are seeing this year?
I think they're favorable to, we thought the same thing when we were playing Tennessee. I think their front starts with their front. It's not only fast, it's big, and I think probably bigger than some of the defenses that we face. So I think, how do we handle those guys? Collins inside, Simmons on the outside has got 9 or 10 sacks as a freshman rusher. So, they got some speed. Anthony Hill can really run at linebacker. And then the secondary, they get the Jim Thorpe Award winner. And I think the 2 safeties are outstanding. Maybe as good a pair of safeties as we've seen and faced. So, it's legit. But you don't get to this point in the season where there's 4 teams left and say, hey, these guys, they're good on one side but not good on the other. I think they're really, really good on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, and Sark has always been known for that. But this defense is legit. I think they're first in the country in red zone defense. In 134 teams, that's pretty good. So, it's going to be a battle.
Brian said